SABMiller manufactures, distributes and sells beverages, including 200 beer brands.
Right, of course we know those beer brands very well, the local ones like Castle and the likes, and then also the international ones, because remember they bought Peroni, they bought Miller, Grolsch in the European market. Quite a big player also in China with their China Snow business. China Resources, or the brand is called Snow.
SAB has a market cap of 1 trillion rand, a PE ratio of 24.3 and a dividend yield of almost 2%. Let's get the lowdown on SAB from your perspective. You mentioned that you liked it earlier on in the conversation.
Yes, I like the exposure of the company in terms of Africa as a growth story. Also, if you look at the numbers from SAB, the numbers have been quite robust coming from Africa. Also from from the east, it's been quite good numbers from SAB in that sector. We know they own the main brand Snow there in China, and then also they've got quite a substantial exposure in Latin America, where they also have strong growth. In the developed markets in Europe, they have muted growth. South Africa also sort of muted growth compared to these other markets. But interesting also, they don't just focus on the alcoholic beverages, they also do bottle and distribute soft drinks and also Coca-Cola, and we know that there's been some corporate action through Africa in that regard. Yeah, it's a company that I think I like the positioning of, and also the rumor that we saw had the price jump slightly last week, but when you consider the price as a whole, it's kind of trading around levels that we've been seeing every now and again over the last year.
There's the share price graph, Paul, and the jump that Mia's talking about.
It's picked up into the sort of 660 type of range. In fact, the earnings have been okay. There's been a management change because, of course, Graham Mackay died. So Alan Clark has taken on the senior role. And then just in recent months, the FD of the company stepped down. So I don't know. I mean, there are some issues there and some kind of question marks.
Do we need to be, are you saying we need to be concerned about the FD
Well, I don't know.
down?
There were some sort of vague market comments about ructions in the executive boardroom. But I don't know. These are companies typically that have a very deep bench. They've got strong operational people. It's very competitive at the top end. So it's easy for the boards just to go on sort of moving people around.
This is your emerging market play, as Mia set out. If you want exposure to emerging markets, including China with that Snow offering.
China and Africa, because we know that that's where the population growth rates are highest, and that's where the biggest consumers are going to be located in decades to come. So that's attractive and exciting. I guess the question also for SABMiller is how will they deal with the fact that they have a fairly loose shareholder base as well. That's worth mentioning.
Yes.
Your thoughts on the loose shareholder base?
I don't think that's any need for concern at this stage. I think when you consider a takeover, then it might be an issue. But when you consider the company as an investment, from an investment case as a loose-standing investor, it shouldn't really be an issue for you. I think there's more potential in that than anything else.
No, I agree, because the fact that Altria Group, which is the parent company of Philip Morris, owns like 27 or something % of the shares here, they're a potential seller. That's why it's in play. The Santo Domingo family that they bought Bavaria from, the big Colombian, has about a 13% stake. So that's quite a chunky amount of stock available, and that's why Anheuser InBev is sort of always totally circling around. I mean,
but you don't like to buy things on corporate action anyway.
No, and I said earlier that I'd prefer if SABMiller were to buy Heineken, because remember, that was also talked about. But the Dutch
We've seen these potential deals come and go, the rumors thereof around SABMiller for many years.
And you might say, well, there are competitive concerns, and there would be with overlap between Miller and Budweiser and Anheuser in the US and maybe in Europe with some of the brands. But they might have to dispose one or two. And remember, the competition authorities will probably say, well, it's beer. That's only one product for people to drink. They can drink alco pop drinks or something else as well.
But don't underestimate the soft drink side of the business.
True, I think the distribution network that they've built up in Africa so far is actually potentially one of their biggest benefits for us. They've got this arrangement with Coca-Cola for bottling and distribution, and that's a great arrangement. It's been working in South Africa for years, and it's definitely working in Africa as well. It's a difficult market.
In Africa, it's all about distribution. If you've got distribution on the ground, then you have a very viable business model. Just want to go back to that share price graph, Paul. Let's get it up again. Have we had a foray with SABMiller?
We've sort of dabbled with it, but we've been tended in the past, in our speculating days, we tended to pocket those gains whenever they presented themselves, and they sort of went to sleep a while.
You got appetite to speculate again on this one?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm a little concerned that the price itself, might spike if a deal were to come to the fore, but it might have moved in anticipation of that already. And I do think that maybe in the short run, some of those management ructions and the fact that earnings have been a bit soft will count against them.
Hot or not?
I'm going to lean towards not hot right now, although I will concede that the Chinese upside is attractive. So I'm going to go not hot.
Not hot. Mia?
I'm going to go hot on the company. I think there's every now and again we do find opportunities to buy into the company, and over the long term it has added decent value of around 30% per annum for shareholders.
So you buy on pullbacks for
That's right, we do.
SAB.